legally tend to be our most valuable citizens who respect the law and follow the law, and criminals don't. So regardless of what changes in the state law occur, good citizens are still going to abide by the law and criminals are not.
I agree with you completely, Victor. The problem that I have is that they don't make it a requirement that you get a permit anymore. So everyone gets to carry a gun now. So somebody that may, I know in Wisconsin, you couldn't carry a firearm if you had numerous misdemeanors. And they changed it the same as Missouri did to say you don't need a permit anymore. Everyone can carry guns. I think it's rather obnoxious of our legislature, but I don't want to waste the council's time.
I understand, but as one example of that, though, is it still against the law for someone who's been convicted of domestic violence to have possession of a firearm, regardless of whether they had a carry permit or not?
Yes.
And council legislative issues as it pertains to law enforcement and so forth was a major topic at MML this year, Missouri Municipal League. Go ahead. Thanks.
Well, I was just, not that, I don't know, we could probably get the data, but on the assaults with a firearm and the robberies with a firearm, it would be interesting to see which one of those were actually with legal obtained legally versus not.
I think that we could probably, that would take some time and some doing to actually drill down into the narratives of each one report.
We were up, what was it, eight total, I think, robbery with firearm, and assault, it seems to be the same trend. Go ahead.
Okay. So for this next slide, what we did is we went back and we looked at the trend from 2007 over the last 10 years up to the end of 2016. And so we kind of want to do a comparison on how we're setting as far as an increase in crime, decrease in crime, or what we have here. So you'll see in the first corner that the population increased from 2007 up to 2016. And then you see that our calls for service, although they have increased some, they haven't actually dramatically increased a whole lot, but there has been kind of a little bit of a climb there. And then during that same time period, our overall crime, which is a combined total of our Part 1 and Part 2 crimes, we've actually seen a decrease overall since 2007 through 2016. So just to drill into that a little bit more, we separate out over the last 10 years what the Part 1 crimes were, so you can see that graphed out, and then the Part 2 crimes. And again, 2015 was a little bit of an anomaly, it looks like. We kind of saw a rise in several crimes, but then 2016 we dipped back down again. And then to drill even deeper, we split out our major Part 1 crimes on here. So you'll see that 2016, our homicides increased dramatically. But then you also have to take into consideration we're dealing with pretty low numbers already. So a dramatic increase, although any homicide is a horrible event, but we've gone from 2 in 2015 up to 6 in 2016, and we currently are standing at 5 in 2017. You'll see our rape data. Rapes, again, 2015 was a very high year for us on that. I don't really know what to attribute that to. There's nothing that we could point to that said this is what caused that. But that is concerning that was higher. But then 2016 they dropped back down. Robberies, again, peaked early in 2011 and then have been kind of decreasing since then. Aggravated assaults, what we were just discussing, 2016 really jumped up on that, and again, a good majority of those were gun assaults. Burglaries have pretty dramatically decreased over the years, and then larcenies have decreased as well, again, which are thefts. So this next slide, and I've got one for every ward, and I'm not going to belabor it and go each ward for ward. I'll let y'all have that. But I wanted to show you this as representative of quarterly. We are going to start providing you with this data. So each quarter you'll have the data for your specific ward, and if you've got more detailed questions on that, we can certainly drill down into that for you. But that way, that gives you a little bit of a pulse of what's going on in your district. We'll be able to hit your top 3 major reports during that time, and your total reports, and then even what your busiest day of the week is for crime during that time. And because we've got a crime analyst position now, it makes it a lot easier for us to do that for you. And unless y'all just want me to, I'll skip over going ward through ward on that just to save a little bit of time.
Good data.
I'm sorry, May, did you have a question?
No, just good data. That's
okay.
Just good data.
And if there's something in addition to that that you would like to see on a quarterly report, please let us know and we can include that. Or if we can't, I'll tell you why we can't. All right, so the next area of data is our nuisance division statistics, and you'll see a dramatic decrease in nuisance calls from 2016 to the current time period in 2017. Then at the bottom of that, you'll see where 2016 is, we've actually got it separated out by type of call. The one that stood out at me, and I actually had to ask Corporal Druggy to relook at that again, was it looks like graffiti is at 0. Graffiti is not at 0. Usually those are vandalism reports that are police reports. What this graffiti number is are businesses who've had graffiti up that we've actually had to take some kind of an action on. So the actual numbers for that are for 2016 was 11 and 2017 are 8. But since it's such a small number, it didn't show up on that graph for you. But as you can see, animals are still our top issue that we deal with through the nuisance abatement department. And then just as we saw the numbers dropping off on there, we broke it down by self-initiated activity or dispatched activity of our nuisance abatement officers. And you can see that that is both have dropped off at about the same rate as well. So what that tells me is some of the ordinances and things that we've enacted in the last several years regarding nuisance has got people's attention, and they're starting to take care of their properties better. All right, any questions on nuisance? All right, and since all of this has kind of been driven by the new crime analysis position that we've implemented, I thought I would have Corporal Druggy come in and just kind of review of what it is he's doing, some of the things that he can do for us, and how we've been using some of the data. And so, Brian, if you'll come up and speak to me.
While he's on the way, and to the comment from Councilman Azura, in the crime one, if you're doing that, you're going to do this quarterly, right?
Yes.
If you could break out those few on violent versus what he calls the baseball bat.
Okay, you want
Break
it
those two out.
by object?
That's
Okay.
quarter, I think it would be
Some
good.
categories of.
By weapon?
Yeah,
We can do that.
yeah.
Okay. I say we can do that. Did I commit you to a lot there? Okay. Why don't you come up and do a little bit?
Good evening, gentlemen. Ma'am.
Good evening.
Yes. So my position started back in April of this year. Crime analysis is a pretty multifaceted job for us. It's anything from short-term crime, trying to review reports, and all of our information that comes across the department on a daily basis to see if there's any connections that need to be made, if there's a network that's starting to appear, might not be readily available to someone working a shift or daily, because when shifts work for patrols, it's 2 days, maybe 3 days at a time. They're not seeing the other 5-6 days of the week, so they might not have the best whole picture. A position like this allows a more overall whole look at the information coming across. So we can look for, like I said, those networks of people, maybe a series of crimes. If it's more than just a coincidence, it might be the same person perpetrating, is when we can start drilling down a little bit further on that, maybe even getting into a predictive, try to stop it before the next one happens. a lot of my time will also be spent with presentations like these, statistical compilation, analysis of what's going on. It can be short-term, do a weekly one for the department. We do the quarterly one coming forward now. A goal of mine is to start moving towards long-term stats, looking at year over year, 5 year over 5 year, and trying to find maybe more of a longer-term issues going on, and then trying to ascertain why these issues are happening. So if we can see a multi-year spike in crime in one spot during one time period, look into why. Why is this happening, and what can we do to fix it? So it's taking up all my time for now, but it's fun. I enjoy it. It's very challenging, but I think it's very beneficial to the department and the city as a whole. So do you guys have any questions specifically for me?
I think it's a good position to have filled. And it'll be more valuable as we go along.
Oh, absolutely. As he gets more comfortable and we get some different softwares and things in, especially the new records management system, which we're kind of working on vetting that out, we'll really be able to get deeper into the data. And I mean, just with, the corporate world is leaps and bounds ahead of us on data collection and analyzing data, and government is starting to catch up, but something we're really excited about. So, thank you.
Do you currently have the ability to do like time of day? I know when talking to other city managers, they've analyzed some of their data, and you may be in the data collection but they were able to swing some of their shifts and things in order to really match up better with where their top needs were.
Yes. Right now I can do down to an hour every day. So for the 8 o'clock hour, things will look at this number for the week, month, year, whatever we're looking at. So that we do have that capability now. I don't know how much we'll be able to refine it until we get new software, but for now we can get down to an hour.
Okay.
And we actually have used some of that data for our directed patrols and kind of looked at it and shifted some of the times and some of the areas that we're doing directed patrols on already. And so, the downside of just getting into doing the data collection is it will take a while to figure out how effective we are with it once we get more and more data. But you got to start somewhere. So, any other questions for Corporal Gurley? All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Next thing is just wanted to bring you up to date where we are on our staffing. As you know, we're currently budgeted for 80 officers. We have one position that's unfilled at this time. And we've got 2 people going through a background process right now. We just did a test a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully we can get somebody hired out of that to fill that position. You'll see the final section there is the number of people we have deployed. What that is I've got 6 officers that have been deployed to Cuba, to Guantanamo Bay until May of next year. They're with the National Guard, so we'll get them back in May. Health officers, we're actually up to full staff on health officers, and we've been down in that for a considerable amount of time. We've got them full staff, but then I also have one of them that's also deployed to Guantanamo Bay as well. And then jailers, we're full staff with jailers, and had we done this presentation 2 weeks ago, I would have said I had one deployed with the National Guard, but he actually came back on Monday last week, so I do have him back. So staffing wise, we're doing pretty well. We've got a lot of guys that are going through training. They're still in the field training process, so but we still count them as an officer, but they're not really overly beneficial to us until they've gotten through that field training process. But we're getting them on board as quick as we can without decreasing the quality of officer. We're still pretty stringent on the type of officer that we want to hire.
How's your jail population trend?
We're running about 13 to 14 a day.
Okay.
Right now. And that's been pretty even for the last year and a half.
Okay.
What's your capacity?
20. And that will also be our capacity going into the new facility as well.
Do you know the tenure of the officers that you have?
The last time that I looked at tenure, we were running about 5 years on average was what our tenure was. Which, am I doing that? No. Which is not really where we want to be. I'd like to see a higher tenure level. As within any occupation, the more experience you have, the better you are at your job. But that's kind of the nature, again, of law enforcement nationally. You see a lot of people that are retiring out because they can, and they see the national climate, and they don't want to spend much more time in it. And so that's shifting your workforce to a much younger workforce.
Of your 80, would you say you have 15 or, I'm just guessing, less than 2 years of experience? I know you have quite a few less than 2 years
Yeah,
of
we do have quite a
experience.
few that are less than 2 years of experience. I don't know the exact number on it, but 10 to 15 range would probably be pretty accurate. And the thing to keep in mind is that those are the guys that have the most interaction with the public as well, because they're the patrol officers. You don't come into a police department and be made a detective right away. That takes time and experience to become that. So it's a little bit, I wouldn't use the word scary, but it is concerning that the people who are the public face of your department are usually the people who have the least amount of experience. And as our workforce is getting older, the older guys are starting to retire out, and the younger guys are coming in. You hope that those younger guys catch up quick enough that you don't lose a lot of institutional knowledge and just have nothing but a department of 3 and 4 year officers. Because then that's when you start having problems and mistakes made, poor decisions made. And right now we're still fortunate we've got several of those tenured guys that we have on the shifts that are good guides for the younger officers.
And you developed a robust training program and training officer situation. And I think really you were ahead of that game and knowing this was coming and putting that in place.
Yes, sir. Yeah, our field training program is a 16-week program. So once they get out of a police academy, they spend another 16 weeks with 3 different training officers. They rotate through them because we think you get a broader wealth of experience, more people that you're with, because the way I police might not be the way Corporal Druggy polices. And so you can kind of pick up different things from different officers. And then at the end of that 16 weeks, they go through what we call a ghost phase, where they are actually totally on their own, but their training officer is with them, but he doesn't really interact unless there's an emergency situation. And he just assesses how they're doing. And if we have an officer that's struggling a little bit, we'll put them through what we call a remedial training on whatever issue it is. If it's report writing or if it's citizen contacts or something like that, we'll work them through that and try to get them back up to speed if we can. So 16 weeks is the norm, unless it's somebody that's come to us with a lot of experience, and we may shorten that a little bit. But we can go beyond that if we feel like there's a need to kind of go beyond that a little bit.
With the current environment for law enforcement and changes that occurred, I mean, I heard rumors that there were a lot less people interested in going into law enforcement. Have we experienced that locally? Is it more difficult to find recruits than it was 2 or 3 years ago?
Oh, absolutely. It is. As an example, the 2 officers that we have going through the background process now, we gave the test, I think, 3 weeks ago, and we had 4 applicants, which is pretty low. And if you look back even further, a long time ago, when I got into law enforcement, I remember the first department I applied at had, I think, 4 openings, and there were over 1,000 applicants for it. And you just see now across the nation, it's just dropping off. In fact, the Sheriff's Association, which runs a lot of academies around the state, last year were considering closing some academies just because they weren't getting the attendance. The academy class that SEMO currently has right now, I don't know if it's just a glitch or whatever, but it's the highest class they've ever had. But they were really concerned last year up until just this class that just started that they were going to have some funding issues because they weren't getting the people. And so I'm hopeful that what they're experiencing right now is a trend back upwards, but I mean, it's a little early to tell. They've been in class, I think, 3 weeks now. So, but hopefully that trend will go back up and people find, me personally, I still think it's one of the greatest occupations that a person can have. And hopefully that people will start thinking that again and want to get back into it. Any other questions on staffing?
Are we drawing any recruits from other agencies that would?
No, not really. Most of what we're getting are new, fresh out of the academy. Every now and then we might steal one from Sykeston, but for everyone we steal from Sykeston, they steal one of ours. So it's kind of back and forth on that.
Thank you.
In the exit interview, whenever they're leaving, how close do we analyze that data to see where they're actually going to do or why or what?
Yeah, we look at that and we talk to them, and then they do an exit interview with Human Resources here at City Hall if they choose to do so. But yeah, we do look at that, and we keep track of where it is, what they've left for. And, you know, some of them leave for other police agencies. Some of them just say, hey, I just want a job that pays better and is less stressful. And that really is more of what it is than going to another police agency. It's just people that are totally getting out of the business altogether.
One question, going back to the crime data, section 1. With the data between robbery and assault and gun violence, you're not talking. The gun violence piece is up. What can we do, or what are we doing to get illegal guns off our streets if there is much to do?
Well, you know, if we come across illegal weapons, we confiscate them, we seize them. It really comes down to prosecution and there being consequences for carrying guns. And so, you know, we work pretty closely with the prosecutors. And like I said, the federal government has really stepped up their effort here in the St. Louis and the Eastern District to assist us with that. And we get federal agents every time that we've got something that's got a gun involved in it, they're interested in it, which is not what we've seen in a very, very long time. So we're doing those kind of things. And that's, I think, going to be the most helpful. And part of it goes back to the community engagement too. It's really important that we keep those ties open with our community so that when they see something, they'll report that to us instead of just ignoring it and saying, well, it is what it is. But building those relationships so that we get that reported to us. And you know, I think in part, I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen some of our drug stuff go up, because people are calling us and they are using our anonymous tip line and they are letting us know when there's drug activity going on. And I think that's been one of the things that's increased with that.
How many times in a year do you think a firearm is discharged within the city limits of Cape Girardeau?
Oh, it's in the hundreds. It's almost a daily thing. We get shots fired calls nearly daily. And some of those may not really be a shot fired. We get out there and we don't find anything, or somebody heard a single thing. It may have been a car backfire, but we do get a lot of legitimate ones in the hundreds. And that's probably some data that we could provide to you as well on the quarterly basis, as well as that specific type of call. Because
geographically.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, because that would fall outside. If somebody hasn't been hit or shot at and hadn't reported it, but you just want to know shots fired calls, we can break that down for you.
That'd be good on a trend basis too.
Yes.
So I'm really concerned, Chief, with the fact that homicides have gone from being a once or twice a year occurrence to an every other month occurrence. And I'm positive that concerns you too.
Absolutely does.
But when we have someone shot across from the university this weekend, somebody shot at 8:30 at night in Independence and West End, somebody murdered just a couple blocks from the fountain at the university. That is a real problem. What resources do you need to combat this gun violence that's afflicting our community? Are there additional things that could be done that you're not able to do?
You know, the easy answer is to say I need more police officers. But that's a really easy pat answer, and we do need more police officers. But there are technologies out there that are gunshot detectors and different technologies like that would be beneficial. But the problem is those things are ridiculously expensive, and in the six figures expensive. But that would help a lot. You know, overtime funding to be able to do more task forces, which we have been doing. And we have found that when we really drill in on an area, like with our street crimes task force or some directed patrols, that stops it for a while. And again, I think the biggest thing is that the message has got to start getting back out there that prosecutions are going to be happening on those, because I think that people feel emboldened by it because they don't feel like there's a whole lot of consequences. When you see people coming out of prison that have done 6 years on a murder, you know, what's their incentive for not committing another gun crime? I mean, it was just 6 years. And I get the broader picture of the whole criminal justice system. The prisons are overcrowded, the jails are overcrowded. But there's got to be a solution there somewhere. So, and one of the things, to your point, that I specifically am doing is I've been appointed to the governor's Justice Reinvestment Task Force, and we're working with Department of Corrections right now and a group of statisticians looking at what are some things that can be done to fix this problem holistically, and not just as a police problem, but as an entire criminal justice problem. And so we've been intact for about 2 months now and are in the data collection phase, but hopefully together collectively we can get some ideas on how to fix some of that too.
You're gonna present this, I'm assuming, every quarter to us, or at least we'll get that.
Yes, we'll get that every quarter.
I would like, personally, I would like to follow up to some of the things that maybe they are expensive, but maybe have a top 10 that we could be able to see and be able to figure out if there are things within that we can get done to help you.
Okay, I can certainly do that.
It needs to be addressed.
I absolutely agree.
One last question, Sam.
Yes, sir.
How many minority applicants do you get?
I'm sorry?
How many minority applicants are we getting?
Very few. We seldom get a minority or a female applicant. And I think some of the problem with that is that everybody wants to hire a minority because nobody has minority applicants. And so you get your bigger cities like your St. Louis's, and you get your federal agencies that pay really well, and they recruit those and really sweeten the pot to get the minorities there, which makes it harder for all of those that's in the outlying area to attract them. But it's not for lack of trying. We really do try to recruit those. Any other questions on staffing? No? Just wanted to kind of update you where we are on the new building. Most of the drywall's up. They last week poured and striped the parking lot for us. It's looking really good. They're still saying substantial completion late December, early January, first part of March. And I know that a couple of you have taken out there and given tours of it, and y'all seemed as excited about it as I am. It's we're really excited about it. I think it's going to be a great thing for us.
You know, I haven't been out there yet, but if other council, who has been? Robbie? And you have, if other council, if we could get a couple together at one time, I'd sure like to go. We'll have, I'll have Bruce kind of set that up with
Absolutely.
a couple ones and a couple another.
Councilman Fox and Councilman Guard will attest that I love showing it off. So
Okay.
I'd be more than happy to do that.
We'll need to do that, council. We see it driving by, but we don't see the innards.
Yeah, well, just when y'all are ready, we'll go out there and do it.
We'll have it set up.
Just and I think everybody kind of knows it, but I like to brag on my folks on the community partnerships. And these are just some very quick examples of some of the stuff that we're doing. Our Coffee with Cops, we've been doing the citizen police experience where we actually have citizens come in and we put them in a vest and a gun belt and put them off into scenarios. We'll be doing our next one in April. After we move out of our old building, we're going to use it to do one of those. And I think the mayor, I know you've been to one of those.
Yeah, it was dangerous.
Yes, yeah. And really what's interesting about it is, we start the day off with a bunch of citizens that come in and they think, oh, this is easy, we can do this. And then we throw them in scenarios and they get shot a lot.
What I mean, it's very eye-opening.
Yeah, and the thing that we really are very specific that we do is every scenario that they've gone through is one that a Cape police officer has experienced. So we don't throw out these outlandish, there's no way you could possibly ever win scenarios. We really try to keep it as specific to our community as we can. And as the mayor said, people walk away with their eyes just open saying, wow, I had no idea that this is what police work is really like. And we built some pretty good relationships by doing that too. We've gained some big supporters through doing that. So that's kind of one of our favorite ones to do. But it's also one of the more time intensive and manpower intensive to get people through the scenarios. But we love doing it. We even feed them barbecue for lunch, which is my personal favorite part of it. Of course, we do our neighborhood roll calls through the spring, summer, fall months. We just tapered those off. We are partnered with SNAP to work on trying to quell some of the gun violence, and have been working very close with Felice and her group. which we do the Shop with a Hero every Christmas, very invested in Special Olympics. In fact, I was at a meeting last week and learned that the state of Missouri as a whole is the 7th largest donor to Special Olympics through the Torch Run program, which is what we participate in. And so that's pretty impressive to have our guys and gals part of something that's 7th in the world as far as making a difference in the young Olympians' lives. We do the trunk or treats, and we do lunch bunch with some students out at the Alternative Center also, and what that program is, one of the SROs came up with it, the school resource officers came up with it on his own. So, a lot of these kids that are here in the the academy, but basically the Alternative Center for the school district, probably haven't been to restaurants, really haven't had those experiences. To just sit down at a restaurant and have a decent meal with somebody. And so he takes one a month that has shown like some really good progress while they're in the academy, and then they take a day and they go out to lunch, and some local restaurants have donated the money to take care of that for them. And we found that's been a pretty fun program. And again, it's just about building bridges and making connections with people that you wouldn't ordinarily think that we would want to be making those connections with. And then one of the programs that I am most excited about is our Explore program. Last year, the school resource officers came to us, and Explore program is a national program that's for kids ages 14 to 21 that might have an interest in law enforcement. And so they meet twice a month, and they get police training, they get legal training, they get how to do a traffic stop. I know they've done some courtroom testimony experience on how to testify once you get to court, and different things like that. And we've got 14 explorers in the program. Most of them are in the high school. They went this last summer. St. Louis did an Explorer Academy for a week, and this is the first time that our kids ever were even together as a group. Really, they just started, and as you see, they won top shot and top St. Louis Explorer. Which is pretty impressive. I was pretty proud of not only the kids, but the school resource officers for putting that program together. And one of the things that's really, I think, going to be a benefit to us in that program is those are our future police officers that we're getting now at 14, 15, 16 years of age. And we're already educating them on what police work is like. We're educating them on how Cape Girardeau does it, and we're building that relationship with them so that if they do choose outside of high school that, hey, I do want to be a police officer, Cape Girardeau is going to be the place that they want to work. And we'll have a good officer because we've already trained them, more or less. And just to brag on a little bit, they help our parades, with traffic control. They helped out at the SEMO Fair. I think a couple of them actually found a lost kid at the fair this last time. So it's also a little bit of a force multiplier for us on things that, don't necessarily need a police officer at. And so we pair them up with an officer and let them get some experience that way. So. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any other questions that y'all have for me?
I guess from my perspective, the issues and the priorities got to come down to guns, violent crime. If we separate those on the statistics, I think that'll be kind of eye-opening. Homicide and shootings, from what I hear, and we were talking about that, but from what I hear, people come to me and they say that happened in my city. Didn't happen out west or down south or up north, it happened in my city. And people are concerned about that. People are concerned about that, and I get that a lot. I guess comment in the question, the drug possession, drug sale, those are significantly up, and I guess that's good news, bad news. It's good news that they are up, and then it's bad news that are up. Do you see that? Where do you see that going? And are people that are charged, where are they going? Are they
a lot of times, and a prosecutor could probably speak to this better than I can, but a lot of them are being diverted to what's called drug court and put into treatment programs.
Okay.
And I think that's a relatively new thing. It was going on before I got here, but I think it's a relatively new thing in Missouri. There's some benefit to that because you're not just throwing them in jail and then once they've done their time, they haven't learned a better way. They just go right back to where they were.
Well, if that's happening, that's good.
So I think that, again, it's one of those where it's a big ship, takes a long time to turn it around. I will say that the opioid and the fentanyl issues in Missouri that we have not yet been significantly affected with, I am concerned are coming. The St. Louis area is really getting hit hard. Kansas City's really getting hit hard. And what I'm hearing through some of the drug task forces is, hold on and wait because it's coming your way. It just hasn't hit us yet. Hopefully the drug monitoring program that the county just implemented will help with that. But we've got officers that are assigned to drug task forces, and they're really trying to tamp down on that. And we've been really hitting the drug stuff hard. I know last week, I think our SWAT team hit 2 or 3 houses that were drug houses, and that's abnormal for a week. But that tells me that they're out there really hustling, trying to find it and get those off the street.
I guess my question, and that SWAT team, I remember you had the blitz that you were going around from. I haven't heard much about that lately. Is that still going on?
We are still doing it.
Okay.
It has scaled back a little bit. Some of the other communities' budgets kind of got in the way of doing it to the level that we were doing it. But we are still participating in those.
Okay.
Just not as hard and heavy, and not advertising them as much as we.
Well, that's probably good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then I've got one more comment about Teen Challenges is got a major capital campaign going on right now to start an induction program here. If anybody here, they got to send them to Hot Springs or Mississippi or other places for their first weeks. And with this program, and I think they're a third of the way through their capital campaign now, they'll be able to take and house from day one. You got them here, you can get them here in Cape Girardeau at Teen Challenge from day one. So that should help in this area.
I would think it would.
Rather than sitting down and do they get there, We need to help these people all that we possibly can.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
So Chief Larry, you said that the other communities' budgets were impacting the task force. Are there things that you require from the city council to be able to continue the task force? Obviously, you can't deputize people off the streets, but does that mean that additional overtime dollars are needed to use more of your own forces in these larger?
Yeah, one of the issues that has made it a little bit more difficult for us is you go back to the staffing where I've got 6 officers that are deployed. So a lot of my overtime is going towards just staffing the patrol and putting people to fill those empty slots. So I don't know that throwing more overtime money at it necessarily is a benefit because I'm already working them to death. That's just kind of been the nature of what our summer this year has been, is that we've just been cut short with those guys going. But hopefully once we get them back, we'll be able to ramp that up a lot harder than what we were able to do this year.
I would personally like to see that. It seemed like some of it was perception, I know.
But perception's important.
Perception is, but I also know that in the smaller communities, whenever they're getting crime out of their area, a lot of times we're an easy place for them to hide.
Yes.
And we've got to do a lot, as I've said, to get those knuckleheads out of our community.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, street crimes is one of my pet projects, one of the favorite things for me, one of our favorite things that we do. And I can promise you there's nobody that wants to see us doing more of them any more than I do. But the staffing, and then, like I said, some of the other cities have had a hard time putting people to it as well. But once we get our staffing level back up with our guys back, I think we'll be able to hit it hard again.
What percentage of our violent crime is drug related? I mean, I've heard rumors that it's a fairly high percentage and that the drug problem is really causing a lot of the violent crime.
Right. I could only give you an anecdotal number, but my anecdotal number would be 95%. I mean, it's almost every serious gun crime that we have has a drug nexus to it at some
So if we
point.
can eliminate the drug problem, then that will hopefully result in lower violent crimes as well.
Yes, I think so.
Are you seeing better federal willingness to prosecute drug crimes? I know for a while we were had trouble with that cooperation. Is that turning around as well? You talked about how the gun crime is turning around.
It seems to be. Of course, drug cases take a lot longer to make
Right.
because they've got to do a lot of buys and things like that. So we haven't seen it exponentially grow like we have. A gun crime is pretty easy. You only have to find it one time and you make your gun case. I think that we'll see the same thing on the drug side. Just again, those cases sometimes take a little longer to work. But we still work very, very closely with our partners at DEA. They're in our building all the time. We've got really good communications with them just like we do with ATF with our gun stuff. So they're willing and ready to work with us. We've just got to get those cases made and get those into court and see if we're getting the same level of prosecution on them. But I would think that we would.
Good. Okay. Anyone else? Thank you. We'll look forward to more trends.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
Okay. Catch the lights. Anyone here to appear before the council on any item that is not on the agenda this evening? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Bill Colin, Vice President of Shady Grove Association. That association is just recently made up for the Shady Grove Cemetery that was abandoned out near Dutchtown. We have in place a sign company that's willing to put up the sign. We have a construction company that's willing to go in and cut the large trees and start cleaning up. Our problem is, I have talked with people at the county a couple of times. Members of the board has also talked to the county. We cannot get anything in writing saying who owns it. County Archives told me that it was abandoned. The county took it over. He says, I'll just write your name down here and go ahead and do what you got to do. I don't operate that way. Also, we need a survey showing the limits of the cemetery so we don't go on somebody else's property. And we're not getting anywhere with that. So I'm coming to the board and asking you guys, I know you got more pull than I do, to try to find these items that we need so we can go in there and start to work. And anyone that want to assist me in getting that, I appreciate. You have my phone number, so if you find that information out, please give me a call, but we need something in writing because there is a gentleman next to that cemetery and he's not the friendliest of guys. And I don't want no problems once we get started in there.
This is out at Dutchtown?
Yeah, it's 74 towards Dutchtown.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Well, and you haven't got response from the county?
We have been to the county now 3 times.
Okay.
The only response I got was the county archives, and they said that it was abandoned and the county took it over. And I asked for something in writing. I have nothing. And I don't think we should have to go and pay for a survey if there's a survey on file someplace. And we definitely need that survey.
Yeah. I know that we as mayors and city managers and county commissioners and everything, we meet as a leadership group every month. I'll make that an agenda item when we meet next month.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't go make them do anything, but
No, but
we can sure communicate.
Thank you. That's
Okay.
what we're failing at, and I think if you guys could help us, I appreciate it.
If you would leave contact information
Sure.
with the clerk,
Mhm.
and then I'll forward the contact information when we meet next month.
Okay,
Be glad to do that.
will do. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Appreciate the work you're doing too, Bill. That's a big task.
Well, you know I'm out there.
Yes.
Anyone else? Any item that's not on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Yeah, one thing. I'm Robert Breeding. I've lived here all my life. I used to own the old Shakey's. At the same time, I was employed as an engineer, a degreed engineer for Ameren, worked for him from 1968, retired in 2002. I own probably what you could consider a medium amount of rental property. And I'm having lots and lots of problems with people breaking in, stealing out automobiles, had shots fired into 2 of my buildings. And this, I've had probably 6 incidents in the last 3 months. I've owned property, I own very nice rental. I'm not what I call a typical Cape Girardeau slumlord, and there's a million of them in this town. Okay, I rent to very good people that are productive. I never rent to a person that does not work. I rent to almost no students. I have 3 students I rent to. They're all graduate students. I have a retired hospital administrator, a stockbroker. I rent to a pharmacist. I've had a few tenants that have rented as long as 12 years from me. I own property, the 1000 block of Meriwether Street, which is adjacent to the old Schultz School playground, which is now Senior Citizen Center. There's 2 yellow brick duplexes there. On the north side, I own the full length of the block with the exception of a crummy looking 2-story yellow house that real nice people live in. A fellow I used to play ball with, he's my age, I know him well. He's a good neighbor. And I lived at this, in that block in one of those 2 duplexes from 1968 until 2015, when I moved to another location where I found a garage 30 by 50 that would hold several of my boats. At any rate, those properties have very good people. I acquired about 10 years ago a little greenhouse where a fellow from GM had lived in it, and he was real tight. His wife passed away, died at 96. Irrespective, I bought it for $50,000. I spent $50,000 inside that home, and just to modernize it, to insulate, whatever. It has nice cabinets, stainless appliances. Everything I own, whether it's on Meriwether or West Hill Townhomes, has crown molding. Okay, so, and approximately in that little house, okay, I had for 6 years, the man is the service manager at Autry Moreland. A few of you people might know the gentleman. He promised me, he didn't promise me, I treated him so well, he liked that house so well, he said, I'll live there as long as you own it until one of us passes away. Okay, so he lived there 6 years, moved in 2011, June 15th. This year. Okay, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, his wife's home. The doorbell rings. She goes to the doorbell. She sees a fella. She watches him go around to the back. He's trying to break in a back window. There's a little foyer, I guess you might call it, between the kitchen and the garage, which is enclosed. Trying to get through a window. She screams. He shoots into the house. Okay, the lady's obviously terrified. And so that's the sort of the end of the incident, other than the fact that I get over there, I spent $2,000 boxing those windows in, you know, putting new siding in the back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So so the people continue to live there about another 3 weeks. In the meantime, she sees the guy, she recognizes the guy, he's walking on a sidewalk. She knows where he lives. They go to the police department. They won't even go talk to the fellow. And it's a positive identification. Okay, so they decide, then another week later it goes by, somebody rings the doorbell, same deal, middle of the afternoon. Guy starts around, just scares this woman to death. Okay, so they moved. They didn't even move within the city of Cape. They said it's all over Cape, same deal. So they moved to Benton. All right, so about 2 weeks later, here comes a college professor, a new professor at the university. Very nice gentleman. He's probably 35 years old. His girlfriend comes up with him. She's going to stay back in Texas. He rents a place that paid a couple of weeks before he actually moved in, because I never have anything vacant at max in 39 years, 2 weeks. Okay, so the guy moves in. He has company about 2 weeks later from Texas, a man and a wife, probably in their 30s. Very nice people. They're spending the night. They're parked in the driveway. 122 South Hanover, the same place there was a shooting on September 30th. That was their first party. Okay, 4 o'clock in the morning, this guy's home. They shoot a hole in these people's vans sitting right in his driveway. This property is owned by Coulter and Felty. You guys all know Coulter well, and I know you're good friends with him. Okay, and this house is exactly what we don't want in this city of Cape Girardeau, 122 South Hanover. Okay, that's the first party. They shoot that car one time. The other side of the street, my yellow brick duplex where I lived at 1030 Meriwether, they shoot that car 2 times from the opposite direction. A week later, the tenant, and these people are all good people on the other side of the street. One lady works for KFES TV. Her boyfriend, a graduate student at SIU. Jonathan Reno, you probably know his mother, Desmond. He just went to work for one of the tech companies that's moving into rental land, the old rental land building. Okay, he lives in one of them. There's a retired lady lives in one, and a lady works some kind of healthcare in the unit. They shoot their car 2 times. A week later, this same lady, she was up with a new baby about 3 months old when this shooting occurred at 4 a.m. following a party at 122 South Hanover, so-called party. These aren't parties like we think of parties. You know, a bunch of guys and girls and several cases of beer and music. These aren't that kind of parties. So she finds a 9mm slug laying in the carpet in her living room. The same guy had shot into that living room, but the bullet didn't go through the glass. It went through the wood. She didn't even realize it. Okay, so this happened. So I decide, the college professor, he's very concerned. He teaches ballet at the Riverfront Center, whatever it's called, on the River campus. Okay, the guy. So now I put him in, I spent $2,068 for a security system. And on the prior deal, I also put steel plates reinforcing every door to where you can't kick in a door. You put long steel plates of about 1/8, 3/8 steel.
Okay, Mr. Breeding, we've come to a time limit here. What I would suggest,
Well,
what I would
let me
suggest
just say
you.
a couple more words.
Okay,
real quick.
go ahead.
I own West Hill Townhomes also.
Mhm.
And they're very, very nice. They're across the National Guard Armory. There's big pine trees. Jim Arnson built them.
I
And
know
they're
where they
at
are.
the top of the hill, not the bottom of the hill. I got the same thing going on out there. 2 weeks ago, here's a guy, 10:45, rings the doorbell. The couple's home, the car's goes to the back. He's trying to break in. The guy yells. He cut several screens, tore up some of my storm doors. Okay, following that, 5 days later, now here comes the guy in front of the place. He breaks into 3 cars, tried all of them, you know. I mean, I've just got so much, and I'm one person, you know, I own 27 units. You know, how many people are experiencing this same thing? You know, I'm one guy. I've had all this, but also at this 122 South Hanover, then we have the second party. Okay, the next party.
Mr. Breeding, I'm gonna have to cut
But
you off.
basically at 122
What I'd like you to do,
The
Mr.
second
Breeding,
one, there's a
Mr. Breeding, please. What I'd like, Mr. Breeding, what I would like you to do, you're here
I'm finished.
now. You're
Thank you.
here.
I didn't have a clue there was a time limit.
Yeah, there is. We
And I have a video here of people running around. like rabbits.
we extended it for you. Since you're here, Mr. Breeding, wait a minute, don't leave. Don't leave. Since you're here, we've got just a short part of the rest of the.
I can't hear, so I'm sorry.
Let me stay and let me talk to you afterward, okay?
Thank you.
Would you do that, please? Thank you. Anyone else here before the? And it's not that I'm cutting off and not. Yes,
All right.
Scott.
My name's Scott Rhodes. So, my conversation's about the crime issues.
Mhm.
I respect the police and anyone in uniform. It's a job. I understand their hands are tied. A lot of legal ramifications. Understand right now, police are not the most popular people nationwide. Unfortunately, they painted a terrible picture. But as I listened to the police chief, you know, you go through these statistics, these issues, murders are on the rise, but I've yet to hear a plan. What are we doing about it? He identified, it's hard to find new officers. It's hard to keep officers. Equipment's expensive. They were doing drug task force, but now the other communities don't have money. But what's the plan? I understand as much as anybody that it's hard to find people. It's hard to keep people. But, the end of the day, that's the real world, and we have to have a plan. And, the community partnerships, that's great. But guys, you're way past coffee with the cops. It's the little stuff, the graffiti, I've experienced that on a building that we'd spent several $100,000 on exterior renovation. It's still, you go around town, you see this cookie or whatever all over, and I just ask and challenge you all, what is the plan?
Okay.
What do we need to do to hire better officers, experienced officers? What's the plan to maintain officers for a longer period of time? If those are the challenges, what is it? No one's going to like this comment, but why are we talking about a parks tax when we have these issues? Guys, it doesn't matter how great the parks are, but if crime continues to rise, we're on schedule for 7 murders or something this year. I think the slides didn't show, but the previous 5 years are considerably less, and the previous 5 years of that was less. Why are we focusing on a parks tax? If it's going to take more money to fight crime, you only can go to the well once, or you only can go to the well so many times to ask the taxpayers for more money. And what's more important? The safety of the community or great parks. I would love to have great parks. There's nothing, it's awesome, but you have to cover some basics.
Well, I agree. Go ahead and finish.
No.
I agree with you on the plan, and I think council does too. We've talked about that together. I disagree with you on I think parks are a great community asset. I think they help part of the solution. So I disagree with you on that, but I agree with you on the plan, and I sure appreciate your attendance, and we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else to? You have to come here, please. Identify yourself, please.
I'm Linda Sanders.
Sure.
Of course, y'all know what my problem is because you received letters
Right.
from me. But after listening to everything tonight, until we get NRA out of politics, we will not have good laws to stop the killing and the drugs. And our police officers are going to be killed because of the laws. There's no laws for criminals. People don't have rights, but criminals do. And that's all I have to say to you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your concern too, the letters and the communication. Anyone else? Okay, agenda, please. Scott?
We have 2 presentations tonight. We have the first will be the Domestic Violence Awareness Month proclamation. Here to receive that, Bruce. Someone will be here. Okay. And then our rescue team was deployed to Houston for Harvey. They'll be here tonight, and we want to recognize them. Communications and reports. Council, do you have things you'd like to communicate tonight?
I participated in the Homeless Connect again this year at Osage on the 6th. great event serving people that have needs, and many volunteers. It's a great thing everyone does to sponsor that, and all the agencies that show up, and also participate that same evening on the Ivor Square at the Common Pleas Courthouse, bringing attention to that, and also the grant that we're voting on each day. And then it's not too early to mention Spaghetti Day that's upcoming. So that's November 8th. That's coming in November, and sponsorships and tickets, and it's always a great event, and a great event for the Parks Foundation. Others? One thing I would mention, and I just asked Bruce, we probably should mention petitions for council. Kind of slow at this point, so I think we should mention that tonight. I'll bring that up.
I'm going to say something about my tour I took.
That what?
I'm going to say something about the tour I took at Public Works.
Okay, good.
I'll say about the weekend, there's a lot going on with the university. Had a lot of people in town spend money. Talk a little bit about that. Now, one other thing, this is outside of anything I want to talk about tonight, but at the end of the PRS2 meetings, when we've gotten through, I think the last Wednesday night, I'd like to ask that we all get together and do a special study session. And at some point in the next 4 or 5 weeks, and kind of revisit all the projects, where we're at, and discuss those a little bit more in depth.
We planned on doing it during our regular study session. I don't know if that's enough time, or if we can do that, or if council believes we need to have a special one, we can certainly set one up and do that as well.
With the timers, I could see it going longer myself,
Mhm.
and I've got questions, and I know we've heard a lot and seen a lot.
Sure.
And so I wouldn't mind doing it outside of a regular study session
Okay.
myself.
Be fine.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, let's plan that after the 3rd this week, and then the recap of that. And I've got my packet's getting kind of thick too, so we'll do that.
It'll be best for us to go ahead and set one. It's easier to cancel than it is to set one anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea. So Bruce will send out some little program we send to try to see if you've got some dates available.
Anyone else? Okay.
Do have one public hearing tonight. It's regarding the Humane Society annexation. P&Z talked about that. We'll have the public hearing, and then 9, 10, and 11 on the agenda are all related to that public hearing. It would annex the land. It would then zone the land, and then it would extend the boundaries of Ward 4 to include that property. So those items are related to the public hearing.
There are items, 3 items there, and I doubt this is a controversial thing that's going to get much attention. So we'll hold the public hearing and then hold the items till we get to new ordinances.
Okay. Consent agenda tonight. There are items 3, 4, and 5 are the second and third readings of those ordinances. Red Hawk Commons of the zoning on North Water Street, and the zoning on Carterona Drive. Then there is a resolution regarding body-worn cameras, and moving ahead with that. This is an exciting opportunity, and recognize the police for finding and applying for this grant, and that will make our monies go further. And so we appreciate that. And
I know that the grant amount 27 and the double to match 54. What the other costs? What are the other costs total with that program? And are we We got the monies for those.
Yeah, we're
Designated.
prepared. We're prepared. I don't know that we have the exact numbers yet. But
We got some final quotes in today, just right before I got here, but I haven't.
Okay. All right.
But we've been working that issue as well as the radio interoperability issue and other issues to bring to you together, things that are in our capital improvement program that we plan on doing this year. And so it's really just making sure, gathering up how we're going to put the money together and then bringing that in
Good.
upcoming
Well, that's
meetings.
great news.
So it is, absolutely. This grant made it a little easier to do that, so that's good. Number 7 is the license and indemnity agreement for Old Town Cape to put banners on light poles. And that is the consent agenda. Are there any items you would like to remove? If not, new ordinances, number 8 is a bill that changed the court ordinances to relating to water service lines. This is provides that pressure reducing valves are the responsibility of the person that connecting to the service. We've had primarily problems with low pressure, and so our policy is you have to provide to increase the pressure. But now that we have some high pressure zones, and so we want to put that on the owners in this case. So it's a normal thing that's done. We just haven't had to do it here until now our pressure is better. So that's good. And then 9, 10, and 11 are, as I said, related to Humane Society annexation. 12 and 13 are appointments. I believe you received input regarding those appointments.
The Historic Preservation Committee, Sharon Giebler has asked to be reappointed, and that recommendation is there. And also the recommendation from the commission was for Michael Cervantes that we received. On the Parks and Rec, all 3 of those are reappointments of incumbents: Pete Fraser, Kevin Knoll, and Dan Presson.
Got a couple of memos for upcoming appointments, and then you have the advisory board minutes. And I believe that's all we have, Mayor.
Okay. Anything else, council, to come before us in the study session? If not, we do need to have a closed session tonight, and the first part of the closed session will be in here. We're going to do a little active shooter training following dismissal. And then we have an issue in the council chambers back. So we will need a closed session for legal actions, litigation, confidential communication with legal counsel, property transaction, and critical incident response plans pursuant to revised statute 610-021, 1, 2, and 18 this time. If I got a motion.
So moved.
By Gunn.
Second.
Seconded by Guard. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we will stand adjourned and be back at 7 o'clock. Julia, don't leave. I'm going to start the other one.
Get ready to do what kind of training?
We're gonna do active shooter training in here. It's basically the police are gonna tell us in case you'd ever have a shooter come to the council meeting, gives you direction on what to do and how